Hey folks, welcome back. If you're new here, take a look around. Most of the videos I do are Luna based, but they work in all DAWs. Today we're going to take a look at the Hitsville EQ, just released by Universal Audio. This is the old Motown EQ used during the recordings during the heydays of Motown. And what I've done here is I've made a short little track to see if we can put this thing through its paces here. I have it on the mix bus right now. I'm just going to play a little bit for you. Okay, so you can tell there's a good bit going on in this plugin. If I turn it off, let's listen to it without it on the mix bus. Most of that is in the harmonics that are coming through in the emulation of the circuit. This is an interesting little EQ. It's not a tube EQ like I think some people used to think it was. It's a solid state equalizer. It's using some heavy duty transformers though, the old UTC transformers. If you're interested in those, by the way, I do make Motown style DI boxes. I'll have a few up for sale on Reverb again soon. They're really good for bass. Actually, this bass was played through that. Let me play this for you. I'll just play you without any EQ or compression right fast. A lot of tone in those things, and it's mostly down to the circuit and the transformer that is being used. Okay, so let's take a look at this interface right fast. On the master bus, I'm using basically what they would refer to as a mastering EQ. This was used for printing to a lathe and making vinyl. That's why it has a mid and a side program on it. And I'm using that right now. I'm actually using a preset called Mixbus MS R&B. And I changed a few things, but this is pretty simple. You either have a dip or a peak, and the frequency is located right below it. It's this part here. It says 50, 130, 320, 800, etc. If I turn this to half frequency, like I have it here, we're going down to 25, 65, 160, etc., like that in the red tape. Now, on the standard plugin, let me pull that one up here. I've got one on the drum bus that we'll turn on in a second. You can actually turn those labels off by hitting this little plaque right here if you don't like the look of that, or you can just leave them there. Either way. One thing to know about this though, if you're moving stuff around, you got a good thing happening here, and you happen to hit this little Hitsville area right here, it will zero everything out. And there is an undo here, but not in every DAW. It really only works, I have found, in Logic and in Luna. I tried it in Pro Tools and it didn't really work, but that could be because I'm on a M1 machine right now. I'm not sure. Anyway, we'll set that back to 0. Now, on the mastering edition and the regular mix EQ, you have these 3 positions here, and these are super cool because if I have it in, that's using the equalizer and the op amp makeup gain. If I just have it on the out, it takes out the EQ, but it still runs through the op amp and the transformers and everything. And I do that on hardware all the time because it's got some mojo to it. If you click it to off, that's completely off. So let me put that back in. I'm going to turn that on in a minute on that drum bus. If you wanted to do that on the mastering EQ here, you can turn off the EQs and just leave it running through the electronics this way. Works the same way as before. The master power is down here. Okay, so let's take a listen to this without the guitar lead part, and I'm gonna mess with some of the settings on the drum bus. again, like a lot of things, these are emulated to the nth degree. And so when you put in an EQ, especially like a Pultec or something like that, you're going to get a gain boost. And that's just the way they work. If you try to A/B something in hardware, you're not going to be able to adjust the output. And UAD does that to the nth degree, like I said. So I'm going to pull this down about 2 dB. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to pull down some of the 12.5K, and I boosted some at the bottom that seemed kind of bright. So let me do that again. This is off. I'm going to put in just the electronics and then the EQ. Okay, I'm just going to leave it on zeros on all of the frequencies, and we'll go in and out. I am pulling it down by a dB. It's a lot of harmonics being added, and I dig that. That's the transformer sound. I'm going to take that back out because I had it pretty dialed in before, and I'm going to go back to the mix bus. Now, if we pull this up to normal on this control, it will be only controlling the higher of the two frequencies. So any dips or peaks that we've made will kind of almost double. Pretty cool. You can do all kinds of cool stuff with the mid and side programming here. I'm going to leave it in that mode for a minute and talk about this section down here because this is really hip. The filter at the bottom is a low cut or a high cut filter, low pass, high pass, whatever you want to call it. The high pass filter on this is set at around 70 hertz, and that may seem a little bit high for a lot of people, but this was made for cutting to vinyl. So what we're going to get is kind of a gentle curve off the low end. This is known as an elliptical filter, and it helps a needle stay in the vinyl groove, and it actually sounds really good. I'm going to turn that on during the mix here. Let's take a listen to it. I'll turn the guitar back on. This low-pass filter is pretty important to the sound of Motown during this era. If you listen to a lot of Marvin Gaye, for instance, you'll hear that they're kind of high-passed around the same area. It's not taking away the bass. It's taking away most of the sub bass, though. It's still there, but it's very rolled off. Now, the same idea happens on the low-pass filter, and I believe this is at 15K. pretty subtle, but there is a lot of information up there that we don't need for vinyl, especially. And it does sort of give a feel, you know, it's more of a feel than a hearing kind of thing. If I engage both filters, which is this one, this is probably more of like what you would hear during a 70s, late 60s Motown recording. Pretty cool. So I like that they've left it where you can just remove those filters for a more modern sound of you know, a full spectrum, or you can dig into the more vintage sound over here, or just, you know, do whichever one you want. Pretty cool. So this EQ was pretty much based on an old Langevin EQ, and it's an interesting thing because most of the time for a recording like this, we would probably just reach for a pull tech on the master. And I have one of those here. I'm going to turn that on and we'll compare these two now. So this is the Pultec EQ. Now this is going to actually have a good bit more tube sound to it, obviously, because it has a ton of tubes in it. Let's listen to the difference in the two. I'm digging the Hitsville here. The Motown one sounds better to me on this type music. I'm going to try this on the solo guitar right fast. Really cool. I dig the mojo that this thing is bringing. I wasn't expecting to like this plugin that much. I was expecting it to be just a regular old, you know, EQ kind of thing. But the harmonics and the tone that is coming through is not something that I'm getting from any other EQ. And I've tried several with this sort of layout in the box, and I just can't do it. This is really cool. So again, this is the Hitsville USA plugin from UA. Really sounds great. Thanks so much for watching, and if you dig this video, please hit the like, please hit the subscribe. More videos are coming very soon.